everyone, and welcome to Stan the Wine Man TV. I am your host, Stan Rattan, and this is the Blue Collar Wine Show, where I try to help you spend your wine dollars wisely. I have been slacking on these videos. I had company, we had to entertain my niece, I didn't get a chance to shoot some videos. You know, timing is everything, as you all know, and just the way things have timed out, I haven't been able to do it. But I'm happy to be able to start this week, well, we're in the middle of the week now, with San Juan Vineyards. This is my local homies. These are my homies. They're just up the road about 3 miles from my house. And I'm really close friends with Chris Premise, so I'm very nervous about doing these episodes because, you know, I'd like them to show well, but I'm not going to make anything up. I'm going to be real. That is the way I am. I'm trying to help you guys spend your money wisely. Well, I can't recommend a wine if it's worth. Tell you wine is worth its money if it's not. That's just the way I roll. But in 2013, they lost their whole crop of Mandolin Angevine, which is one of the few grapes that can grow in Western Washington. So in 2014, they ran out of whites real quickly. They did a Pinot Gris to kind of get them through that time. But in 2014, they had a great crop, probably one of the best crops they've ever had. And if the weather keeps up the way it is right now, they could have another good crop this year. So they have the whole lineup of whites this year. I'm excited about that. They grow Mandolin Angevine. They grow Ziga out at the vineyard. And both excellent. Chris has done an excellent job with these wines in the past, and I expect that he'll continue to do an excellent job. But we're going to find out. We're going to get right into them. Sorry about the writing on the front of the label. I need to talk to the worker that drops off the samples, that he doesn't have to write sample on the front of the label, but he did, so bear with me. This is the 2014 Mandolin Angevine, estate grown San Juan Vineyards. This rolls in at $18. There you go, there's the label with sample written all over the front of it, for crying out loud. Anyway, rookie mistake. Going sans of tablecloth today. Doing this on my lunch break, so, you know, didn't have time to set everything up exactly the way I usually do. That's okay. I like the clanking a little bit. Just a little. So Mandolin Angevine is not a grape that a lot of people are familiar with. It's mostly European, of course, and but they found that this grape does really well in Western Washington. It thrives there. I've always called it like Sauvignon Blanc on steroids, but that's in past vintages. Let's see what we get on the nose with this one. So I get a little bit of that coconut meat, which seems to be very typical of the grapes that grow out here at San Juan Vineyard. I'm getting some nice white flowers. I'm actually getting a little bit of like nettles, which is interesting. A little bit of just a touch. The nettles are coming through big time. Getting a little bit of like a pine needle sort of thing. A little bit of lemon. Very interesting on the nose. Let's see what we get on the palate. Really, if this didn't say Mandolin Angevine on it, I would guess it as a Sauvignon Blanc. It has a lot of Sauvignon Blanc characters, very citrusy. I get the pulp of the lemon and the pulp of the grapefruit. It doesn't have so much of the grapefruit, you know, the full juice flavor, but it does have a little bit of that. I get a little bit of like a lemon rind coming through. The white flowers, big time. Bone dry, delicious, nice long finish. I get a little bit of an herbal, like grassiness on the finish, which is very, very interesting. I like this wine. $18. Basically, you're paying $18 for a pretty good Sauvignon Blanc. One of the things I disagree with wineries, and you know, it's their decision, it's their wine, is to start off low and then raise your prices. And some of the San Juan Vineyards stuff is creeping up. They've gotten some gold medals in wine competitions. So you just have to be careful though, because the consumer gets used to a certain price point, and then you start raising it on them, and you know, it does affect the sales, definitely. But this is a very good Sauvignon Blanc style wine. It's Mandolin Angevine. Yeah, I really get that grapefruit pith, that lemon pith. I'm getting a little bit of a, it's almost like the essence of honey on the backside of this wine. I like it a lot. I'm going to go B- on that wine. I think it's a little priced up there. I'm going to go B. B-. Okay? Let's move on to one of those varietals that just keeps persisting in sales. I don't necessarily get it, but I know a lot of people like it, so you know, I'll go along with it, whatever. Pinot Gris. And this is San Juan Vineyards Pinot Gris. Of course, they do not grow Pinot Gris here on the island. They actually bring the grapes over from eastern Washington, because you cannot grow Pinot Gris on the western side of the mountains. 2014, Pinot Gris, Columbia Valley, San Juan Vineyards. This rolls in at $17, which, by the way, is not chump change for a Pinot Gris. 17 bucks. Not chump change. I'm just saying. Chris has nothing to do with pricing. It is all done by the owner. So, you know, $17. Let's see what we get on the nose. Get a little bit of bubble gum. Definitely some bazooka coming through. A little bit of little white flowers, like bazooka and white flowers are the main things I'm getting off the nose. Just a little bit of apple coming through. Let's see what we get on the palate. Thankfully, there's no bazooka on the palate. I get a lot of apple and pear combination with a little bit of white flowers coming through. A little bit of minerality, which I find very, very interesting. And a nice creaminess on the palate, which is, a lot of you will like that creaminess. It's almost like somebody dipped the apples in just like really lightly basted it with a little bit of honey. I'm getting that kind of that sweeterness. Where did that come from? Kind of getting that sweet sort of orange blossom, white flower, apple, maybe a touch of pear. Maybe it's more ripe pear than it is honey. That's what I'm getting. Pinch of minerality. It is Pinot Gris. There are a ton of Pinot Gris out there under $15 that perform just as good as this one does. I think it's overpriced. I'll just say that right off the bat. $17 for a Pinot Gris. I know we live in a tourist community. People will buy this Pinot Gris because it says San Juan Vineyard on it. It's a good Pinot Gris. Chris did a good job with it. It's just overpriced. I think it's more like a $12, $13 Pinot Gris. Just to be honest with you, and I'm going to have to go B on this one, B- on this one, only because of the price. And you got to understand your grade, you know, quality to price ratio. It's definitely a B wine. It's above average. I just think it's overpriced. But it is a B wine. Let's move on. So the San Juan Vineyards 2014 Riesling, Yakima Valley. And this one rolls in at $17. Again, I apologize about the writing on the front, but I just want you to see the label. It's a pretty cool label. It's a picture of the schoolhouse out at the vineyard, which is where I got married. It's not an exact replication of that building, but, you know, it's the ideas there. So Chris loves Alsatian wines. He loves German Rieslings. So I'm kind of excited to try this one because Chris, you know, does put a lot into his Riesling. He puts a lot into everything. Chris is a great winemaker. I love the guy. Like I said, he has no power on the pricing side of things. $17. I get that coconut meat. It's so curious. I get a little bit of apple coming through. White flowers. I get a touch of orange blossom. Somewhat challenging. These wines are just a little cold. It's interesting. I put them out in the garage because I don't want them in the fridge. And I've said this many times before, and I'm sticking to it. I drink the whites the way I think the consumer is going to drink them. It would be nice if I did everything at room temperature and gave you all these flowery descriptions because, as we know, the warmer the wine gets, the more aromatic it may get. Not always, but sometimes. And, you know, the flavors are a little bit different. But that is not how 98.9% of you are going to drink the white wine. Isn't that true? You can comment if you want. Tell me if you agree with me on that one because it's helpful for me as a... Why am I putting that over there? As a wine critic, I try to do the things the way I think the consumer will do them. And I know consumers like to drink their whites cold. Sometimes too cold. These are not too cold, but a little cooler than wine. I didn't think my garage would stay that cold. And I'm just getting just a touch of grapefruit. But barely. Okay, let's see what we get on palate. So this is not as dry as I thought it was going to be. Somebody that worked at the winery said it was a lot drier than this. So I should have probably tasted it behind the Ziga, but I haven't tasted the Ziga yet. I would call this off-dry. It has a sweetness to it, definitely. Like those of you who like Riesling, this would be really good with Asian food. It has a nice, like, apples that have had a little bit of sugar put on them. There's no granulated sugar flavor. Just really, really sweet apples. I get a little bit of apricot coming through on the back end, which I like. A little bit of peaches coming through. Definitely white flowers. It's like really, really ripe apricots and really, really ripe peaches and blended with apples. Maybe just a splash of sweetener on it, but not a lot. It finishes dry. I like that. It's just sweet enough to make it really compatible with some spicy foods. And it's dry enough on the finish. This would be a tough one with shellfish. I thought it was going to be dry, honest, just based on what was told Somebody told me, but that's okay. It's okay. That's why I taste them. I don't go on other people's word. I'm even getting a touch, just a touch of like a mango coming through, which is really interesting. I really like this Riesling. $17 now. You're starting to get into a price range with Riesling. You know, all the people in Washington really struggle with St. Michel pumping out this Riesling. It's really popular. It's, you know, it runs around $12, $11. Not nearly as good as this. This is a really good Riesling. This is a Riesling that could cross over to a lot of different people. It's got enough sweetness for those who like their Rieslings sweet, but it's dry enough on the finish that those who do not like sweeter Rieslings will really like. And it's got a finish that's incredibly long. I'm still tasting the apricots, the peaches, a little bit of mango. I'm still getting the apple flavors that are coming through. Very good Riesling. Very good Riesling. I'm going to have to go A- on that. I think it's very good. The price is, you know, it's fairly priced for what you get. All right. I think I have a cat or something trying to get behind the couch. All right. Now we're going to move on to what really would kind of their trademark wine. And that is their Ziga. This is their 2014 Ziga estate grown San Juan Vineyards. This rolls in at $22. That price has crept up over the years, but they sell out of it every year. And Ziga is the name of the grape, and it's a hybrid cross between Gewürztraminer and Mandolin Angevine. So you get that kind of Gewürz aromas coming through. I'm very curious to try this. Last year we sold out of it right away. Let's see what we get on the nose. And this is just wild. I mean, I always told Yvonne, and that's the owner, she should bottle this and make perfume out of it. It's just got such a great nose. I'm getting tangerine, mandarin orange, white flowers. I get like lemon blossoms, if there's such a thing. Get a little bit of apple coming through. You really have to smell this wine. I mean, this is one of those wines that has a lot of things, and for those who have different kind of memory associations with aromas, you're going to get a few other things out of this wine. It's just very aromatic. I get a little lychee nut coming through. I love that backdrop of like tangerines and mandarin orange. Like I said, they should bottle this. Find some way to make a perfume out of it. Let's see what we get on the palate. Now, that being said, I did do it in the right order. This has more fruit on it than I remember past vintages of the Ziga. They did have some good heat during last 2014. It has a nice roundness on the palate, which I don't remember from past vintages. This is going to be a big hit. It has nice ripe apricots. It has I get that mandarin orange sort of tangerine, but not the citrus side, more just the flavor of those things. There is no citrus to this. It has a finish that actually is on the sweeter side. Very curious about this wine. You could have this with Asian food. You could have it with shellfish. It dries up on the finish a little bit more than the Riesling. It has a nice, very nice flow across the palate. It has a nice creaminess that I don't remember past vintages having, but I like it. The finish is long. I get a little bit of like a papaya blended with apricots, blended with mandarin orange and tangerine. A little bit of white flowers coming through. Yeah, nice clean finish. Nice long finish. I'm going to go A- on that one also. I think it's a very well made wine. I think it reaches a different spectrum of audience. I think if you like Riesling, you're going to like this one. It has more fruit. It's definitely riper than I remember past vintages, which I think in this particular instance is a plus, because it's certainly not a sweet wine. It's just more fruit than I remember in the past. I wouldn't call it sweet, but it does have enough sweetness to make it really good with Asian food, with Asian noodles, be a great sushi wine. By the way, you could really get on with this with some good sushi. I think it'd be great with white fish. Would be a good combination with this one, maybe with a little bit of spice on it. There's a lot of things this wine could go with. Definitely a warm day in the backyard would be my suggestion. $22. If you want to try a Ziga daiba, I would suggest this one. It's very good, very well made, A-. Good job, Chris. Sorry you don't have anything to do about pricing. I think the Pinot Gris is definitely overpriced. The rest of them, you know, they're fair. We all want them to be cheaper, right? Thanks for watching. I really appreciate the viewership. Sorry I haven't been putting out more. I don't know if that's good or bad. I've been told the more you do, the better. But I think sometimes for you guys to catch up, I see a lot of you are catching up. I see episodes where you guys are watching. The numbers are building and building on the back episodes. I'm looking forward. I'm hoping to be able to have a few more interviews here coming up. I know Luke Bradford is coming up, and looking forward to having to interview him. I'm thinking about asking Jed for an interview. Jed Steele's up. We're doing a tasting with him, which I'm excited about, and you know, Trey Bush from Sleight of Hand Cellars. So got a lot of exciting things coming up. I do appreciate your support. Thanks for watching once again, and remember, wine is not a mystery. It is just fermented grape juice. Drink it, enjoy it, be willing to expand and try new things, and never ever let anyone tell you what you should or shouldn't like. And if we do that together, we can take the snob